Okay, so here's a quick video for my guys that have just got out of the 90th Fighter Squadron and have just graduated the B course and are now in the 122nd and now have the option to also fly the F-15EX Eagle 2. What we're going to do is, for this video, we're just going to show you some of the differences between the two aircraft to help get you up to speed in the EX2. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and hit escape and go to our adjust controls. One of the first differences you'll notice, if you take a look at the F-15C and then go under your communications, I'm one of the guys that has one of my buttons set up for comms to notify the tanker when I'm doing my refueling. I've got a button set up for ready pre-contact. If we take a look at the EX under comms, that button is no longer available. So we actually have to go into the comms menu and hit F6 or F7 or whatever the case may be once we get the tanker dialed up to let them know that we're ready pre-contact. It's a little bit inconvenient, but it is one of the subtle differences between the aircraft. So now with that out the way, we're going ahead and get the aircraft started. It's got a lot of similarities. Obviously, it's got the F-15C cockpit, same controls, a lot of the same binds. But with that said, they are not the same aircraft. All right, so we just turn our electric panel on, nav lights, and anti-collisions. We'll go ahead and get the engine started, as well as close the canopy. Another one of the subtle differences is the fact that both engines start at once. So actually the F-15EX will get started up a lot quicker and be green jet a little bit quicker than the F-15C, simply because the C usually will start engine 2 first, and then engine 1, which takes by starting the engine separately, which is what you do in real life, it takes another minute and a half or so. Second difference I'm going to point out is that with the F-15C, I can get the aircraft, even with 3 bags of gas and fully loaded, I can get the aircraft taxiing at about 75%. The EX is a much larger and heavier aircraft. Right now we have 2 bags of gas attached, and as you can see, we have about 29.6 as far as 29,600 pounds of gas. If I have 2 bags of gas with the F-15C, I'm looking at roughly 21.6. So we've got about 8,000 more pounds of fuel in the EX as opposed to the C. Let's take a quick internal view as well. Now the EX, from the external view, you've got 2 pilots, but if I look back, there is no backseater, no weapon system officer. So with that said, again, as far as when you're in the cockpit, it looks pretty much the same as the F-15C. Whereas 75% before, again, would get us moving in the C, we're not going anywhere at 75% in the EX simply because of the additional weight. So typically about 81% we get the rolling. Now this is the biggest change. The EX, it's really weird, but you can turn the rudder and it will turn very quickly. It'll turn so quickly that it will, I'll show you. Alright, so with the first thing you need to do, let's go ahead and get the brake back on. First thing you need to do when you're taxiing is bring the throttle up to 81 to 84%. You see it start moving. You need to have positive grip and control with your rudders, and just make slow inputs to get it rolling and not turn so hard like I just did a few moments ago. It's very slow, very smooth, and she turns very quickly with the rudder usage. You definitely want to get your binds and your curvation set up for both pitch roll and the yaw axis, which is what you're seeing right now being used. I have mine the same as I do with the F-15C, so it shouldn't be too big of a difference. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to point out, actually before we get off the ground, this is the biggest thing. This is the game changer with the F-15EX. So I've got a weird type of countermeasure system set up here with the aircraft, which doesn't provide additional drag. It's back in the tail of the aircraft, but now I've got, as you can see, I've got the AIM-120 Deltas, 2 of them for each of my external pods stores that I can carry missiles on. So with the C, I'd be able to carry 1, and with the C model I can only carry the AIM-120 Charlie, but obviously with the EX I can carry both the Delta and the C7, or the C7 as well as the C5, I believe. But you know, if you can carry the Delta, then why not carry the Delta, in my opinion? And you can carry 2 instead of on each store as opposed to 1. So this is the big selling point of the EX as opposed to the C, along with the added fuel. And yeah, between those 2 alone, I mean, those are just game changers. Okay, last but actually not last, the aircraft also is going to need to be trimmed. So with the F-15C, I don't use trim at all. So chest controls. These are 2 of the binds you definitely need to have if you're going to be flying the EX. The trim hat, nose down and up. I've got those set up on my throttle. I never use left and right for the trim, and I never use takeoff trim as well. But we definitely get those set up with the EX as opposed to the C. And then something I'll also do with the EX that I don't do in the C is I put my flaps down for takeoff. She's a heavy girl. She needs as much aerodynamic lift as she can to get off the ground, whereas opposed with the F-15C, once I get anywhere between 130 to 150 knots, I start pulling back on the stick. I'll usually go 5 degrees nose up pretty quickly and not worry myself with tail drag. However, the takeoff with the F-15EX is very similar to the takeoff with the F-15E, in that you only want to go 2.5 degrees nose up. And now that rotation speed of being between 130 to 150, and the EX is now between 180 to 200 knots. And again, I'm only going to pull the nose up at a maximum anywhere between 1 to 2.5 degrees nose up for takeoff. So it's going to be very smooth takeoff and controlled. All right, so let's go ahead and showcase that for you right now. And what I'm also going to showcase is the trim, the need for trim. Once we get nose off the ground, I'm going to bring the flaps up, and you'll see very quickly why the trim's needed. This is one of my private missions, so there's not going to be anybody that's going to jump in on final or anything like that. So, all right, so takeoff is about the same. One of the next things you're going to notice is the difference in torque. So for the F-15C, the torque maxes out at 96. With the EX, the torque maxes out at 109. Alright, afterburner kicks in after 101, and then it'll max out at 109. I'm going 2.5 degrees nose up. Okay, I'm off the ground. I've hit gear, I've hit flaps. I'm bringing the aircraft stick back to neutral or center, and the thing wants to go nose down. This is where that trim comes into play, because now I'm slowly tapping the trim up. Just without doing that, the aircraft is going to want to put itself into the ground. So now I'm at 199%. I'm out of afterburner. I've automatically got radar contact with guys off my nose. We're not going to do any fighting here. I'm just demonstrating, you know, some of the differences. And as you can see right now, my gas is at 28,000, 28.0. Getting rid of all of my fuel, my gas is going to go down to, which I'm going to do now. I'll go ahead and jettison the tank. You'll see it's going to go from 27.7 to 21.6. 21.6 just dropped my fuel tanks. So Let's see, any other differences I think of? I believe that's about it as far as the things I've noticed. The radar is about the same. The fire usage is a little different. Every time I fire off, I believe more than 5 missiles, even though I have all A120Ds. Anytime I fire off more than 5 missiles, I have to reselect my weapon select switch to requeue the other missiles to fire. So the more airspeed you have, every time you have to adjust airspeed, you have to adjust the trim. So I'm pushing it up, pushing it down. She is a tricky aircraft, that's for sure. So just be cognizant of it, be aware of it. Anyways, welcome to the 122nd, and hopefully this video will help you out to transition from the F-15C to the F-15EX.